There are fears we understand. A fear of heights or a fear of the dark. They're external. But there's another kind of fear, one that's deeper, more paralyzing, and it's entirely internal. It's that quiet, persistent fear of just trying. In this explainer, we're going to explore that very specific hesitation, the fear that steals your future.
This feeling, it isn't laziness, and it's not just a simple lack of motivation. It's actually a powerful and pretty sophisticated psychological defense. It's built on a core belief, this deep conviction that doing nothing at all is profoundly safer than doing something that might not be perfect. It's a mechanism that's really designed to protect our very sense of self from what we see as the devastating judgment of failure.
So, what is it that really holds us in place? What is this invisible barrier that keeps us from taking that next step, from starting the project, from making the call? It's a question that sits right at the heart of what we're talking about today. Okay, so let's start with a fundamental paradox. Why do so many capable, intelligent people who know exactly what they need to do, choose to just remain stuck? This is the paradox of inaction we're going to unpack now. It's really tempting to just label this procrastination, but that doesn't even begin to capture the depth of the experience. The fear of trying is rooted in something much, much more personal. It's the terror of what an imperfect outcome, of what a failure might reveal about our own intrinsic worth. It ties our performance directly to our personhood. To really get this, we need to look at the psychological machinery that's working behind the scenes. We're going to diagnose these specific mechanisms that build this invisible prison of perfection. In its most extreme clinical form, this is known as atychiphobia. Now, the key word here is irrational. This isn't just the normal worry you might feel before a high-stakes exam. This is a persistent, disproportionate dread that can turn even low-stakes tasks into monumental threats, and that, in turn, leads to chronic avoidance. And this is often tangled up with what's called the imposter phenomenon. This is where a person is literally unable to internalize their own successes. So despite having the degrees, the promotions, all this objective proof of their accomplishments, there's still this deep, gnawing feeling that they're a fraud, and that the next attempt, the next project, will be the one where they are finally exposed. And this leads to a state we can call perfect inaction. Think of it as a perfectionist's safe haven. As long as an idea just stays an idea, untested in the messy, imperfect real world, it can remain perfect in its potential. But the moment you act, you introduce flaws. So the only way to maintain that illusion of perfection is to not act at all. This really breaks down the critical difference between two types of goals. See, someone who is paralyzed by this fear is almost always driven by performance goals. The main objective there is to prove their competence. In that mindset, failure is a catastrophic verdict on their identity. The alternative, though, is a focus on mastery goals, where the objective is simply to learn and improve. And in that world, failure isn't a verdict, it's just a data point for growth.
Now, a fearless deep, it doesn't just appear overnight. To understand it, we have to look at its roots, which often reach way, way back into our developmental history.
A lot of times, these roots can be traced to environments where love and approval were conditional. Maybe a critical upbringing where mistakes were met with ridicule or punishment. That teaches a subconscious lesson. My value depends on my flawlessness. Or it could be a single, devastating public failure that was traumatic enough to condition the brain to see any new challenge as a threat to its very survival.
So as this fear is carried into adulthood, it casts a really long shadow. It starts to manifest as this quiet, corrosive stagnation, the slow theft of a potential future.
It operates as this self-reinforcing loop. So you face a challenge. This triggers an intense fear. To escape that discomfort, you avoid the task. Now, this avoidance gives you a fleeting moment of relief, but it comes at a really high cost. It reinforces that deep-seated belief that you were, in fact, incapable of handling it in the first place. And that just makes the next challenge even more terrifying. This all creates a really profound paradox. By not trying, your potential is kept safe. It remains this beautiful, untested hypothesis, protected from the harsh data of reality. But the price of that safety is that it remains permanently unrealized, and the person is left to live with the heavy burden of what if. So, where does all this leave us? Well, the path forward isn't one of simple tricks or life hacks. It's about a deep, fundamental shift in perspective. It begins with redefining our very relationship with failure itself. This is the central idea. Right here, a deep internal separation has to happen. It's an understanding that what you do is not who you are. Your achievements, and just as importantly, your failures, are events. They are not a measurement of your intrinsic value as a human being.
You know, we've been conditioned to see failure as a final judgment, the slam of a gavel, a final binding verdict on our competence, our character, our worth. But that's a narrative we've learned, and it's a narrative that can be unlearned.
Here's a more accurate and, frankly, a more helpful way to see failure. It's simply information. It's data. That's all. It just shows you what didn't work. It provides feedback. It is not an endpoint, it's a compass pointing you toward a new approach. So let's end with a question for your own reflection. Imagine, just for a moment, that your fundamental worth as a person was a settled fact, completely non-negotiable and off the table. If it was never, ever in question, what would you dare to try?